Hi, so let's talk about the epidemic of loneliness. The previous presidential administration, the Surgeon General said that loneliness is as dangerous for your health as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Interestingly enough, I was in, it was about 2 years ago, I was in a group setting and I said that, and people looked at me like I had three heads. Like it was just, she doesn't know anything. It could be that, because the color of my hair or something. It's like, are you one of those people that just seems like you say things and people just don't take you seriously? Or there's some reason why they're not listening to you. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But you're listening to me now, so that's wonderful. I have Joyce Meyer on mute now. I like Joyce Meyer. She has this studio where she just has a small group of ladies and she's talking to them. She's not using. I used to be in the theater. They would say, speak loud enough that they can hear you in the back of the theater. She's using her more conversational voice, but it's still the same person. I never minded her being on stage talking in front of hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people. I never minded the booming voice, but some people, well, we're so sensitive. You can't say things too harshly or too loudly. You're going to hurt somebody's feelings. Wow. Nobody says that to men, do they? Well, I guess they do. I don't know. Oh boy. You know, the epidemic of loneliness, how does that relate to the breakdown of communication in society? I just won't listen to that person. They're evil. I won't listen to them. For some reason, President Trump comes to mind. I voted for him 3 times. So his first administration, I was so busy, terribly busy. I had an at-home job, and I was a stay-at-home mom. And quite honestly, I didn't even have time to go to church, and I was getting a degree from a Christian online university. I was so busy because it takes me a long time to do things. I'm a perfectionist, perhaps not as gifted as I wanted to be, and so I had to take extra time to do things perfectly. And so I spent all my waking moments, if I wasn't using the bathroom or eating something, I was working, I was studying, I was working, I was writing papers. Wow. You see, there are good people in society that are just so tethered to their profession, their occupation, their studies, that they can't interact with human beings. They don't even have time to clean their house, to scrub their toilet because they're so busy. I would say maybe a law student. Of course, I was accepted into a couple of law schools and didn't go because I realized if I thought it was bad before, how much worse will it be? Having no time for my family, I gave birth to 9 children. And I realized, whoa, the reason I had this horrible, heavy feeling on me is because I didn't have time to devote to my children. My daughters, when they were young, I didn't have time because I thought I was conditioned to believe I have to earn a degree like my mother did, and I have to earn money, and blah, 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 blah. The thing was, after I got 2 online degrees, in addition to my bachelor's of English from The Ohio State University, it really didn't matter. I mean, you may as well just walk into McDonald's and say, can I have a job? Oh, by the way, I pulled this thing out of a Cracker Jack box. Can I be the manager? Ha 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 ha. Why, I spent all that time for what? To not be taken seriously? Well, you see, higher education is there for us to make money, not for you to make money. So, President Trump, will you please do some reforms with regard to higher education? We know that there's corruption. We know how it seems to have become a system of brainwashing people into believing Maoist, Marxist nonsense. What are you doing to reform higher education? Oh, would we love to see those professors protesting instead of paying for the protest, sitting back smoking weed, laughing at the great unwashed. They're out in the streets protesting. Oh, we lost our job. Oh, wow. These universities, I want to tell you, of course, there's certain disciplines like veterinary medicine and human medicine, I guess. They have value for society, maybe engineering. The rest of it, we could do without them. We can do without. You could do without me, the English major. To find a professor who wasn't some crazy leftist, even at the Ohio State University, you're going to have to, you're going to have to be lucky or something, I had one professor who I know he was Jewish. I had a lady that was a conservative lady that taught Shakespeare, and it was sort of an entry-level course for the English degree. But I was finishing up my degree after having been married. I was catching a few courses, I think, after I was married. I don't know. Nothing is linear with me. Everything is all over the place with me, apparently, like a star chart. Well, first I'll go here, and then I'll go there, and then But this lady had served in the Philippines, and there was some corruption in her branch of service. Basically, it had to do with prostitution. No big surprise. We're talking about the Philippines. Duh. But that branch of service was complicit in this. And she was a whistleblower, and it was a difficult time for her because she didn't know how it would end up. See, I don't remember those specific details, but that's okay. I was like, wow, this woman is really sincere, and she's brave. She's even talking about it as an elderly English professor, talking about how she stood up and refused to remain silent while she saw this abuse of the Native women happening. Yeah, it's quite abusive. Even the Bible says, your country is going to be impoverished if you sell your daughters into prostitution. I know I'm paraphrasing, but the Bible does say that. Wow, and some people don't even just sell their daughters into prostitution. There are countries where they're selling sons and daughters into prostitution. Wow, shameful. Thailand comes to mind. Thailand. When I used to have a friend online that lived in Japan. They said, well, we're going to Thailand for a vacation. I'm like, ew. When I think of Thailand, I get child predator vibes. Not that person would have done anything like that, but it's such a horrible scandal. It's such a shame. Everybody knows it's sex tourism. That's why people go to Thailand. But not her necessarily, because she was a Buddhist, and apparently there are things there that are meaningful to Buddhists. You see? So she wasn't going there for a bad reason. But in the West, at least at the time, we perceive, I hope we continue to perceive Thailand as a polluted place. You're letting little children be abused by Westerners, old perverts coming from Europe and the United States, or, I would say it's mostly from Europe, not from the United States, even Australia, to rape little, I'm sorry, don't be upset at me, little children. Nobody talks about it. Why? Why does nobody talk about it? Well, because that makes the viewers uncomfortable, so we don't talk about who might have whatever. My conscience will not allow me to remain silent about that. The sex tourism that's in Thailand. Why doesn't President Trump do something about that? Oh, I'm working on it. I'm sure you're doing a lot of things. But also, there is abuse of children happening in Afghanistan. I mean, I've heard the story of a serviceman, not during the Trump administration, during the Democrat administration, where they were trying to help the people of Afghanistan in the aftermath of 9/11 or whatever. And there was this tradition where the natives would grape little boys in the next room, and they could hear the little boys screaming in terror and pain. And they were told by their superior officers, any service member who was concerned was told by their superior officers, these are our friends, we just have to turn a blind eye to it. We can't stop it, it's part of their culture. Nonsense, nonsense. No wonder people have PTSD. I mean, this abuse, honestly, my goodness gracious, somebody knows what's happening and somebody's turning a blind eye. And that is so shameful if you had the opportunity to speak out and you did not. I might lose my career. I might lose my head, right? In certain societies, you might even lose your head, right? Oh my goodness. How can you live with yourself, though, if you don't speak out on behalf of the innocent? And so it's like, if I'm looking at the star chart, I'm not an astrological chart. I mean, there's a difference between astronomy and astrology. Clay Travis and can we bring out the gong now? Was this guy hired for his looks or what? I mean, if you're from Tennessee, why don't you just sound like you're from Tennessee and just talk like that? Like John Cooper. Ohio State, coach of Ohio State University. Like, that's not an Ohio accent, but people will think it's an Ohio accent because he's the coach. It's embarrassing. It's like, why you hired this hillbilly? I mean, my dad used to call him the hillbilly because he wasn't a very winning coach, but that wasn't very nice of my dad. It's not very nice of me to say, because somebody talks like this, they're hillbilly. Well, I know, but hillbilly is as hillbilly does. Yeah, so. The epidemic of loneliness in society. If you don't look for one reason, if you look at a star chart, it's not like the ABCs written down neatly or whatever alphabet you happen to have. You have your uppercase letter, you have your lowercase letter, and it's all very linear. But when you go outside, go to a planetarium or something, and if there's a nice telescope or whatever, you see, wow, there's planets there and a comet there. Oh, maybe that's an asteroid, a moon. And it seems a little disorganized, and it's hard to make sense of it as a person, that just has a human mind. Mathematically, we can calculate parallax and blah, 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 blah. I did take one course in astronomy or something, and these people are absolutely brilliant people. But what is the point in being so fascinated with space? It's a nice hobby, but what's the point of sending people to the dark side of the moon? Look at society's ills. Well, space is clean. There's no human disease out there. There's no human misery. Is that why you love space? It's very cold, isn't it? Yet you could be a person set adrift and marooned, even if you're not in the middle of the ocean, it could actually be happening to you. And so, now I'd like to bring up the term metaphysically speaking, because the German thinkers, the philosophers, and the metaphysics is what? I don't know what metaphysics is, but if you throw that in, people will pay attention. Look at all this, the pollution that's in society, and we're so concerned, well, there's microplastics, and there's space dust, and there's space junk, and There are pollutants in the air. The pollutants come from a person's heart. Jesus said that. What defiles a person is what comes out of their heart. Because he was criticized for not washing his hands or whatever. His disciples didn't wash their hands like the Pharisees did. Of course you should wash your hands. Of course you should. And use those wipes anytime you go to the store. Germs are germs. It's not that Jesus was anti-science. He knew about germs. He knew about viruses. He created the universe with his Father. But it was more important that he speak about the defilement and the leaven. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. I'm sorry, Mark Levin. It's not your fault, but he did talk about you. Well, leaven is really a metaphor for pride. It puffs. A little leaven leaveneth a whole lump, correct? From the old King James Version. Just takes a little pride. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, Jesus told his disciples. And they said, is it because we didn't buy any bread? And he's like, no, dunderheads. Do you think that Jesus called them dunderheads? I think he did. Or he was thinking, why, God, why did you give me these stupid people to be my companions? But they were good people, just like me. Like, God, why did you pick me to be? Because I knew you'd be good at being sincerely stupid and humble about it at the same time. Thank you, God. For God chose the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. He chose the weak and the blind things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, we're going to get around to talking about the epidemic of loneliness. And I think the seeds were sown a long time ago. Let's say we're doing deep sea fishing. Are there species of fish people haven't found before? Yet. Yet or before. Possibly. If you're into that sort of thing, like marine biology. First I was talking about space, now I'm talking about deep sea fishing. Yeah, I guess you could put it that way. Unearthed treasures. You can find treasures at the bottom of the ocean, a sunken Spanish galleon. Oh, wow, look, I found lots of gold. Can I digress? Here you go, pontificating again. You're not even the Pope. Well, I think the Pope is deflecting because the Catholic Church, that history is pretty corrupt. They stole fabulous amounts of wealth from the Native Americans, fabulous amounts of gold, and shipped them back to Spain. And I remember being a little girl in middle school and hearing, the conquistadors, they got all this gold from the American continent. But today, Spain is a very poor nation. All that effort, I'm thinking they didn't know any better. They were doing it for the glory of God, and if it enriched their pockets, if they had to enslave some people, fine, Don't forget, Spain fought off the Moors for how many years? They had that anti-Moorish mentality. You have to fight to survive. Remember Alhambra or whatever it is? So the Catholic Church was viewed as this beacon of hope. It's going to save us from the savages, the invading savages, the Moors, right? But it was terrible how they mistreated the people. And you can see that mark of, I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean to put people down, like Nick Fuentes. He's whiter than sour cream. Boy, I'm Hispanic compared to him. That little guy, I would just love to use him as like a ping pong ball and just ping him, or badminton birdie or something. It's like, that's what I could do with you. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I can't. I'm sure you're very strong and feisty, you evil little anti-Semitic hooligan. You do have the small man syndrome where you're just very feisty. You're just gonna like be like a little boy of the night or something to any high-paying gentleman. You'll do it. You'll do it for money. You'll do anything, right? Oh, yeah, I'm not like Fuentes. That's Hispanic, but Hispanic people are supposedly oppressed. It's like, but the guy is as blonde as Hitler's grandmother. Please, are you kidding me? What? Like, oh my goodness, did I go off track again? You know, the oppression of the Native Americans. Well, as soon as I hear the word oppression, I'm turning. That's the thing. It's like you refuse to listen to people. That's the thing. Everything is so confused. People were oppressed. People were mistreated. And it was under the auspices of a certain church, but not just the Catholic Church. Remember the child molestation sex scandal that was exposed in the 1980s in the Catholic Church, how many priests were pedophiles, and et cetera, et cetera. And yet, as a little girl, I had a good experience in the Catholic Church. Well, it helped that you were a little girl, I guess. Yeah, I know. Ha 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 ha. But because of my mother being a lonely person, my dad would be away for the entire week, because he commuted. He wasn't a long haul truck driver, but you could compare him to that. For financial reasons, it wasn't practical for him to drive back and forth, and so Mom fell into the hands of an adulterer. I don't think she would have initiated that. I really don't. You tell me. Oh, she came on the... I don't think so. I know my mother was a sincere Christian, a sincere Catholic, and she fell into bad company. Not just male, but female, just bad company, leading her astray. And then she had an affair, and then my parents were divorced. But I think about my mother, how lonely she was. Giants in the Earth, right? I mean, that's a book I would never read. It's like my parents had all these books. It's like Giants in the Earth. What, this Norwegian woman goes crazy out on the prairie or something. Is that the premise of the... Nobody's interested in that. It's boring. Right? I don't know. You have the attention span of a gnat. Do you realize that? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Will you please get to your point? I hope somebody's enjoying this. If I had a conversation partner that could interrupt me and then we could talk about something, but I don't, so. So yeah, I mean, my mother being isolated and really drinking too much, that's the thing. When people are lonely, they do tend to drink, don't they? But things are different today. The whole landscape has changed. So I've gone from a star chart to undersea to actually being on land here. The whole landscape has changed. We have all kinds of drugs. We have kratom. We have marijuana, obviously. I won't touch this stuff. I will not do it. My mother confessed to me, like, yeah, I tried it one time in college. Back then, it was like, oh my goodness, my mother actually smoked marijuana. Now, everybody's a dope head, aren't they? What? Well, who you call it everybody? Everybody and your granny. I can remember Bob Burney live before Jennifer and her husband replaced Bob Burney. this person called in and said, smoking marijuana really helps my arthritis. And he's like, he doesn't challenge him at all. Like, this is not right. You're even spreading the false gospel of potism on this radio program. And by the way, I did call in a few times and they got mad at me. You know why I called in to WRFD? Was it WRFD? No, that's TCT, dear. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You could call Ask the Pastor on TCT. Like, why? That's nice, You should watch Ask the Pastor. You definitely should. There was something about that Bob Burney guy that really annoyed me. I don't know what it was. Like, there was this dog, Denver, that used to just, in the neighborhood, there were no leash laws. I mean, back then, it's like, leash shmeesh. I'll devour this girl and leave her carcass in the woods and nobody will ever arrest my owners. There was a crazy dog, like a demon. If you looked into its eyes, it was a demon. I like dogs. I had pet dogs. I had goodwill toward dogs. This dog hated me. Anytime I would walk out the door, like if I'm just a little girl going for a walk, this Denver with this evil, like Charles Manson, Charles Manson, that's the look that dog had in its eyes. I'm just a little girl going out for a walk. Did my parents not know, or were they turning a blind eye? That's the thing. Well, unfortunately, Erica died, when a dog attacked her, and she was lying in the woods for 18 hours, and she eventually died of shock and dehydration, and there's nothing we could do about it. How would we have known? Right. Yeah, well, didn't. But an interesting story of Denver. I was walking over to a babysitter's house because I was a lonely little girl. I loved that babysitter so much because she was so kind. And her husband was a co-worker of my mother's. And he was an atheist, actually, which is very interesting because she was a faithful Catholic, and everything she did was, she never spoke a harsh word, ever, ever, ever. She was so kind, and so I was probably an annoying little pest. And I remember one time being a little girl and just going for a walk and knocking on their door, and they pretended they weren't home because they didn't want me to bother them. Are you that kind of a little girl? Like, there was a little girl it was a trailer park, folks, but it's not like the trailer park that you're thinking about. This was Julie Fay. Okay? Was it Julie Fay? I don't know. That was a golf course. It was for retired people. Everything was very well kept up. It's not your stereotypical trailer park, so we lived there temporarily. Well, my parents were still married, and I would come home from school, and I would watch Get Smart, and I would watch Underdog, and I would watch G-Force, which is some sort of an anime thing, and I just loved it, loving every minute of it. Before MTV, wow, whoa, and there was this little girl, and she used to say Farana instead of banana, so my dad started making fun of her because she seemed to be kind of like a pesty little girl. She kept coming around wanting to play with, can Erica play? I want a Farana. Like, maybe she was hungry and lonely. Maybe that's why she wanted a banana, because my dad liked to eat bananas. But, people in society, they can see somebody in need, and they can just totally blow them off and dismiss them as ridiculous. So I can see that, this little Farana girl, if I had not been moved away from that place, because I moved around so many times when I was a kid, maybe I would have been friends with her. Maybe to this day we'd be in touch. By the way, I tried to enable Messenger, but it says I have to use a special password, so maybe that's God, because, maybe I wouldn't be able to take it. Maybe I can't do my best. if not allowed to speak without being censored or something like that, right? Wow, I wished that I had sisters. You know, when I was a little girl, I just wished for a sister. One time my mom was pregnant, and then I saw that, the brown circle, the old pregnancy test wasn't pink lines, it was like a brown circle. The rabbit didn't have to die, but, I'm sorry to say, that's for the younger people. There was a method of finding out if somebody was pregnant and a rabbit had to die. That's terrible. But no, it wasn't like that. My mom was a science teacher. She wouldn't use cruel means to determine if she was pregnant. One time she brought these little mice home from the lab, but they died, that's sad, little pinkies, because they would feed them to the lizards or the snakes and everything, But she brought home like a little litter of mice, the little pinkies, they died, it's so sad, right? No wonder you're not normal. Tears are streaming down my face. Okay, good. Maybe there's a drought in your area, maybe you need to cry. That was really sad. Poor mice died. Anyway. No wonder my mother was vulnerable to the cheater. I believe that my mother loved my father with all of her heart, and that he loved her with all of his heart, but those two could not get along. And, my dad, this guy was everything my dad wasn't. He was suave, he was debonair, My mom used to think that my dad was stupid, or sort of implied that he was stupid. I don't think Dad was stupid, he was just a horse of a different color, he was just marching to the beat of a different drummer. But he had issues from his childhood. I know that he grew up in an unstable environment, emotionally unstable environment. Just leave it at that. And as a result, I think that he did not have the tools, even though he majored in business and minored in psychology at the Cleveland State University. And he got it all paid for, GI Bill, the whole 9 yards. I think he really wanted to know what was wrong with him. But psychology couldn't teach him what was wrong with him. If more people were able to talk, then they might be able to hammer out solutions. That's why we still have peace talks. President Trump wants to sit down and talk to people, right? Wow, amazing. But which direction are we going? As human beings today, everybody's isolated, everybody's in front of a computer or a device, right? All right, I'll just leave you with something funny. Like, the bittersweet life that I have. I love those Sling commercials, the Wishful Thinkers Club, right? And the one girl goes like, the one lady, I should say, says, I just wish I could finish a sentence without some man, and then the guy interrupts her. Why? I know, because the very last time I attended a certain group, I think people got tired of hearing me talk, and the guy just interrupted me, the leader. I was just like, he would let other people just drone on and on and on, and then I say something and he cuts me off. What? Oh my goodness. Communication should be more organic. I mean, okay, are you going on? Do you have a PS? I can't believe this. I was just ready to just leave for work and you just keep talking. I'm sorry. You can pause me and put me on later. Um, Rush Limbaugh, a lot of people didn't like him because sometimes he kind of did sound a little bit racist, and that's why he got fired a lot of times. He talked about ebonics and everything. If somebody would teach me, your little special language, that'd be great, you know? But it's more than language, isn't it? It's also, if you have like nails that are elaborately decorated, you're one of us. It's like I look at my hand, it's like the size of an 8-year-old little girl's hand. It's tiny. My fingernails are tiny. My mother had big long fingers. She could grow these fingernails without taking vitamins and not even having proper nutrition. She had beautiful. Why do I have these tiny little nails like Cinderella or something, like the little girl Cinderella sleeping in the cinders, right? Wow. It's like, because if I try to paint my nails, I do so much manual work periodically. What's the point of that? And by the way, how do people wipe themselves properly in the bathroom with long nails like that? It's just so unhygienic. I wouldn't have a doctor with nails that long. Like, what? It's kind of demonic, actually. Okay, that's just my little 2 cents there. Well, now you've offended everybody. I didn't mean to offend anybody. That wasn't my purpose. Why did you shit it? Okay, so I should write a novel like Charlotte Bronte, my favorite novel, Jane Eyre. Sooner or later you're going to wear out your welcome. I don't want to wear out my welcome. That's why I say you're free to pause me anytime you want. Now, remember the episode of Star Trek, Harcourt Fenton Mudge, or whatever, and William Shatner remembers this, of course. If he's still alive, I think he's, Spock's dead. I read the biography of Spock, the autobiography, and Live Long and Prosper. That's what they do in services. You're supposed to keep your eyes closed, and the priest or the rabbi will show this sign. He'll flash this sign, live long and prosper, but it wasn't live long and prosper. It was something very sacred to the Hebrew people. And Spock made it like a comic book. I mean, so I don't know how Jewish people feel about that. Like, oh, now you're hitting very close to home, huh? Don't worry, even if I travel to Bexley, something will give me away. She's not one of us. I know, And then I think about The Incredible Hulk. My dad loved that show when it was really broadcast live Sunday nights, I believe. I can't remember which network, and I can't remember what time it was on. My dad loved The Incredible Hulk. Dr. David Banner, it was like a nuclear experiment gone wrong, and so whenever he gets angry, he turns into this terrible monster. And I think that my dad sort of identified with... We know it's a made-up story, and it's kind of silly, but my dad, in a way, he identified with that character. He also loved Steve Austin. What was that? Like the guy that could just do amazing things. Like, he almost died, and then the military community like rebuilt him as a robot and everything. Like, was it called the Bionic Man? There was the Bionic Woman, and there was the Bionic Man, but it wasn't called the Bionic Man. So he's like infused with special technology. He'd be like really strong. And my dad was so strong, I mean, he really was a strong person. They're just those big muscles, that we have. We're the Transylvanian Saxons. We're here to do work. We're here to pull plows. When you don't have ponies, we're here to pull the plows, We're the Transylvanian Saxons. And we don't keep nice nails, We got big muscles in our biceps, and we got big muscles in our thighs. We're the plow ponies of Eastern Europe, the Transylvanian Saxons. But then you merge that DNA with my mother's DNA, it's like, oh, one of your relatives was a lady in waiting. Yeah. Mitral valve prolapse, like, oh, it really, it's tall, thin women that usually have this. I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just become the loser of the DNA lottery? I have this body built for very hard work out in the fields, but my heart is like, oh, I can't do it. I can't handle this body. Oh. And then with a small brain, well, of course, we're just conserving resources. You don't need a big brain to plow a field or scrub a floor. Right, I know. It's not just fetal alcohol syndrome. Isn't that why I have a small head? Didn't Mary Tyler Moore think that she had fetal alcohol syndrome? Like, that the woman was gorgeous. Was she Jewish? I'm telling you, like, everybody's Jewish. I don't know. She was Mormon. Either she was Mormon or she was Jewish. Strikingly different sort of beauty. And so I would come home from school and I would watch the Mary Tyler Moore show. Look and turn the world on with her smile. Da 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 da. I don't remember the lyrics, it's terrible. But I used to watch it because it was in color. If it was in black and white, I hated the Dick Van Dyke Show. I didn't know she was in the Dick Van Dyke Show. I would never watch it because it was black and white. That's just so lame. I watched Three's Company, I watched the Jeffersons, I watched Mary Tyler Moore. And then Ed Asner, my dad despised him because he's a big liberal, Who can turn the world on with her smile. And my mom loved Murray, like the bald co-caster. Because Mary worked she worked in TV. You have to have huge teeth. My dad also hated capped teeth. They have capped teeth. It's like little fingernails and little teeth. Why do people have these huge teeth? I don't understand it. How is that fair? And they have huge heads too. Just like Elaine. Like, how do you get a huge head? Well, it's got to be genetics. You had to be lucky. It makes you lose 10 pounds if your head expands a few inches. You look like you're thinner. It's not fair. Anyway, I'm not complaining. So, I'm looking at the star chart, the epidemic of loneliness. Yeah, the seeds were sown early on, having been moved from place to place and losing best friends. Elam was my first best friend. I was like 3 years old and I went to this babysitter. I made friends with this little blonde boy with curly hair. His name was Elam. I loved that kid so much. He was like a brother to me. He was like a little brother to me. And, well, we're just not going there anymore. It's like I was used to the trauma. I became used to it. So I don't really know why I was moved around so much. I mean, no, not just from school to school, even before school. And then there was a babysitter that I dreaded going to because there was this really mean girl. She had like platinum blonde hair and like dark skin. She had blue eyes and just very dark tan skin. And it's like she has this beautiful straight platinum blonde hair. I'm like, immediately, she's going to hate. She hated me because I'm scared. And she's blonde and intimidating, and she's probably like 7 years old, and I'm like 6 years old, and I'm scared. Scared of her, and she just became my enemy. She made her, I didn't want to be her enemy. She just decided she didn't like me. And there was this little purple bell that, it's the kind of thing that you would hang in a parakeet cage. And she just made me covet that bell. Like, this bell is so important. You won't get this bell. At Ethel's house. I could say the last name, but I shouldn't, right? But the name of the babysitter was Ethel. She was an old lady who watched soap operas incessantly. It was so disgusting. I was forced to watch these tedious soap operas. I wasn't learning anything. There was no Barney the dinosaur. There's no PBS. There's no Mr. Rogers. It's just like, kissing scenes and necking scenes and drama and romance. I just wanted to like physically vomit. I mean, I didn't, but spiritually, metaphysically, I was vomiting, having to watch these soap operas every afternoon. Maybe that's why my brain didn't grow very large. I think, the growth could be stunted by soap operas. What were the names of the soap operas that were on in the 1970s? Of course, we had, well, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to disparage somebody that actually did good work, good acting, good writing. General Hospital was good, right? Luke and Laura, wonderful story. I remember the story of Luke and Laura. Oh no, Luke had that curly blonde hair just like Elam. Oh no. But I was talking about the bird bell. Little kids are really strange. I mean, little kids don't think the way we think. As adults, you realize how silly you were as a kid, but she kept taunting me with this little bird bell that would just be lying around Ethel's house. So one time I just tucked it into my pocket, and I was kind of a chubby little kid, a little bit chubby, and the jeans were so tight. I mean, it's hard to get something out of that pocket once you stuff it in there. It's really difficult. So the bell, I had to be careful that it wouldn't ring inside of my jeans pocket. I had to be a little bit careful, and I actually took it home. I snuck it out of Ethel's house, the babysitter's house, and I took it home. Then my conscience got to me. And I'm like, I just stole something. So the very next morning, I tucked it back into my pants pocket, and I returned it to Ethel's house. So, yeah. Well, eventually, I guess I said that I felt uncomfortable being at that babysitter, and my mother took me seriously. That's the thing, it's like, how did Mom not know that all this moving around for me was actually so traumatic? But I actually demanded at that point. I said, Mom, I just don't feel safe at this babysitter. It was 1979 or something. I just don't feel safe. And the thing was, I think it was almost an eyes wide shut kind of thing. Okay, enough said. I wasn't in the inner circle. Thank God for that. Mom took me seriously, and so I went to a different babysitter. But ideally, wouldn't it have been nice for my mother just to have stayed at home, like the atheist's wife? But I think that my mother didn't want to be like her mother because she saw how miserable her own mother was. And I want to tell you, when you have two working parents, there is stress in the workplace. There's always, your parents will come home. My dad, every time he'd come home from Cleveland, he would just complain for hours to decompress about such and such coworker and how there's office politics and they're trying to get him fired and all that kind of stuff. Man. But my mother also had to put up with that kind of thing. And then she had a guy that lured her into having an affair, My goodness. So, yeah, I'm pro small business. Office politics, whoa. You're walking into a situation where, okay, people are going to hate you. They're just going to, what is this? I mean, I've met people that just seem to be happy with the work they're doing, and they're good at it, and they're not pretentious, and they're just decent human beings. And I've become acquainted with business owners that, they don't They don't play their employees against each other. But the whole reason why I got my MBA really was so that I could be part of the family business. And even before my MBA, I tried to help. But there's this notion of the patriarchy. Women aren't allowed, right? So the epidemic of loneliness. I don't agree with modern psychology in that it pigeonholes people into categories, because you could say, my dad was an abuser. He was mean, he could rant, he could be cruel. And he's a big guy. Occasionally he did get physical. Never the point where he'd put somebody in the hospital. Come on, man. Come on. Well, anybody who makes a negative comment is now an abuser? Excuse me. My dad, I mean, he was chronically mean comments, not only to my mother, but to me too. But publicly, he was a very kind person. And I think because his heart wanted to be kind, his nature was to be kind. But like the Incredible Hulk, if something made him upset, he didn't know how to handle his emotions, right? And so he was just really, really mean to my, verbally very, very mean. I won't say abusive, because it's like, you throw that word around, it ceases to have any meaning whatsoever. There are people that are withholding, emotionally withholding, and that's considered abuse too, apparently. Like, okay, geniuses, tell us how to fix society, as society continues to get worse. And people just randomly, like, attack people. Like, what the heck is going on with that? Well, you figure it out, geniuses. As my dad would say, genius. So you can see I have a lot of my dad's salty Transylvanian Saxon character, and I have that. And I have my mother's like, oh, you shouldn't judge others because you wouldn't want to be judged. And yeah, I have that too. That's why it annoys people that I'm not. First of all, I'm not blonde, so I'm not given that blonde privilege. I tried to be blonde many times in my life. It doesn't work. I mean, you have to, like, my hair is like baby fine, just like my fingers are tiny. My hair is baby fine. I cannot stand all that chemical stuff that has to happen for me to become a blonde. So I chose to be red. It was like, when I would lighten my hair as a youth, before I even had any gray hair, it would kind of turn a reddish color, and I kind of like that. Excuse me. Now, people are so naive, they want to put you in a category, well, they must be gay because they dye their hair red. Excuse me, if I have like rainbow socks or like a rainbow kerchief and a rainbow painted house, does that make me gay? But some people would think, oh, they must be gay because they have that symbol. Listen, I've tried black hair. I've tried brownish hair. Red, I like red. I think red goes with my eyes. It doesn't make me gay. I don't, if I wanted to be gay, wouldn't I be gay? Like, I really want to date. It's disgusting to me. Disgusting that anybody would even say things like that about me. As a teenager, I admired, the red-haired person used to be the ideal subject for a painting, say Rubens or something, because that beautiful, beautiful red hair, wow. And, often we have the beautiful white skin that goes with it, but I don't have the beautiful white skin, but that beautiful Rubenesque porcelain doll. I mean, no moles, no nothing. Wow, just to be a redhead. Wow, why do we think it's Ronald McDonald the clown? See, the redhead has been denigrated. Redheads used to be the ideal beauty before the blondes. But it doesn't matter if you're blonde. I realized that if I could somehow become blonde, I would get a lot of favor, I would get a lot of appreciation. So I understand, well, I'm not white and people don't like me because I'm not white. I understand that. I'm not black and people don't like me because I'm not black. Think about the poor white kid that's growing up in an inner city neighborhood where most of the people are black, and they despise that kid. I can see that scenario. Wow, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's like it means that your mother just or your dad just moved here and they couldn't get you out of this terrible place. And same thing for a black person living in a racist white neighborhood or whatever. And another thing, from my childhood, I mean, people were really super duper racist. You remember the Chinese, Japanese people would, pull at the corners of their eyes to make themselves look Asian. And then they'd say, look at these, and they'd lift up their shirt and show their of course, we didn't have breasts at the time, so a boy or a girl could lift up their shirt, it'd all be the same. You'd just see nipples. Chinese, Japanese, something else, look at these. Terrible, terrible racism. I understand it, folks, but, don't think that racism just occurs, or, discrimination or hardship just occurs within certain communities or amongst certain ethnic groups. Can I have a final word? Okay. Yeah. For some reason, my parents were kind of cheapskates, like Mr. Krabs. So, like, my husband reminded me the other day, when Pearl had a birthday party, he put ketchup on, like, cardboard and said, that's the cake or whatever. My parents were kind of like that. They kind of were. So, after I got my driver's license, the first car, I think, one of the first cars I was given cost my mother about $500, and she bought it from a coworker. And that thing was just, it looked bad, and it's like, I would, after I would get out of high school, I would drive up an alley, and then it was just totally conk out, like it needed work with the spark plugs or something like that. And so it was so embarrassing to have to start it up. It's like, it's so embarrassing. It would make all this smoke and everything. My parents also, after we were first married, my parents also gave us a car, a Buick Skylark, that they had bought from a local car dealer. And it had like a problem with the exhaust system or something, and it's like you would turn it off, but it wouldn't turn off. It would just keep going and blow huge plumes of smoke everywhere. It was so embarrassing. And my husband looked at the trunk one time. He said, I can see sand here. I can see sediment. This car's been underwater. Of course. They couldn't fix it, so eventually we had to sell it. I took the initiative to go to the car dealership and get my husband a very nice looking used car. I've done that several times. Well, let me think. My parents would get a new car every 4 years when I was growing up. A new car, brand new, from Barry Buick, Worcester, Ohio. Brand new car. I never bought a new car. My husband's bought a new car. I went shopping for a car. I got him a used nice car. And then I went shopping for a van. I got a nice van. I went shopping for another van. I got, with the student loan money. Just, to transport your family, of course. They don't care how you use that student loan money, but you become a debtor. Do you realize I'm still paying $50 a month for degrees that didn't give me anything? Don't laugh. I should be crying, I know. I'm going to tell you, I am not wanting to talk about this, but it's really true that I'm driving my brother's car. My brother's dead. He bought that car, and it's beautiful because it's a Hyundai, and it's an accent, and it's beautiful. But people these days, they have to have these huge trucks. It's like, why do you need like a huge truck? Just go to the store and buy baby food. Like, these little tiny women drive these huge trucks and SUVs. It's like, I get out of the car, I'm 3 times your size, and you're driving little half pint, from Little House on the Prairie. Little half pints driving this huge truck, and I'm driving this little tiny car. I'm like, what? And the people don't respect you on the road, and you might be going the speed limit, and then people just automatically want to pass you because, well, that's just a little car. These people that attitude is so crappy. Wow. So now I can understand socialism and communism a little bit better. Like, I don't agree with it, but I understand. If everybody dresses the same, if everybody drives the same vehicle, if everybody gets the same amount of money, if everybody gets the same food to eat, then society would be equal. Okay. I don't agree with it. But I understand it. I understand those utopian people. They are utopians. If everybody was the same in society, if everybody had the same haircut, if everybody had the same pair of shoes, But did God design our planet to be gray? Did God make the planet in Technicolor? What about that Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat? God paints on a lavish canvas. If you want to work in charcoal and grays, that's great. You're wonderful. But God is a creator. He loves different personalities. He made so many different flowers, so many different bird species, right? And yet, we as human beings, we just want to be enslaved. We just want to be getting our breakfast from McDonald's. Here you go. No cheese. You got no cheese. Everything is so mechanistic. Oh, please, why are we trying to be engineers? God is a great engineer. There are some people who are smart and they should be engineers. Most of us, we're just pretenders. Oh, yes, I'm a great pretender. Oh, pretending that I'm doing well. Oh, my dad loved the Platters, and that's the contradiction about him. He could be mean, he could say things that weren't nice about black people, but he loved the Platters. Oh, yes, I'm a great pretender. Sorry, I just got off sync. Are you flying too close to the sun? I hope not. He loved the Mills Brothers. Baby, you still think of me. I know. Dear ink spots. Maybe you'll ask me to come back again, and maybe I'll say maybe. That's from the ink spots. So my dad, he had a heart. He did. Don't just put him into the category, he's just this white guy, this Transylvanian Saxon racist guy. Wasn't that. And don't believe the press reports that, oh, your mother was such a nice, compassionate person. Really? Okay. I know. When people present themselves as nice and compassionate, it's probably something they're lacking, you know. In reality, they don't have the goods, so they have to advertise things that they actually don't have. Okay. By their fruits you shall know them. So to sum it up, the epidemic of loneliness. Don't try. This is my advice as your sister. I would like to think of myself as your sister. Don't go having an affair, because that's not going to solve anything. My mother had an affair, and it didn't make things better for her. And of course, it made things worse for me and my brother. Don't just join a cult with the shiny, happy people. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is, right? And number 3, Jesus was the only human being ever to walk this earth as God. However, we are continuing his ministry. Jesus was fully human and fully God, correct? And that's the same thing about us. Jesus couldn't make mistakes, though. We do. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. I have faith that this time of torment is just part and parcel, right, for being a Christian. Just being lonely. Don't you think Jesus was lonely? Didn't he want to get married? His own brothers rejected him and made fun of him. And they said, why don't you go to Jerusalem, right? You know, anybody that really wants to be somebody needs to show off in front of everybody. He says, well, you go to Jerusalem. I'm not going, but he did go. Right. I would just ask you if you could do something. My mother had all these albums from the 1960s. She's just not stopping. She will not stop. Okay. She had all these albums from the 1960s. One of them was The Doors, you know. Come on, baby, light my fire. And I would spend many hours alone. My parents would be out at a restaurant or someplace. And they could have put me in like a sports thing or something. Or I was just alone for many hours, listening to James Taylor and The Doors and everything. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the world on fire! No, it's not about like destroying things. It's about a little spark of human kindness, maybe faith. Humanly, I've tried so hard. To light that fire, you know, that would be engendering love throughout the world, right? One person lighting a match in the dark is not going to bring a lot of light, but what about many people lighting matches in the dark? Aha!